Ani, please. I don't want to get married now. I'll do anything you want, please. That was the cry of Amaka, a poor 18-year-old orphan who was sent to Lagos to live with her aunt, hoping for care, but meeting cruelty instead. Even with all the insults, hunger, and daily maltreatment, Amaka believed she had seen the worst life could show her, until the day her aunt discovered the truth. A trust fund had been set aside in Amaka's name. And in that moment, everything changed. Her aunt didn't just switch, she plotted. We need to marry her off before she becomes wise, she decided. Because if Amaka found out what was truly hers, she would no longer be easy to control. But what followed wasn't just the tears of a helpless girl. It became something louder, deeper, and unstoppable. The voice of justice. Welcome to Folktale Bestie. Please subscribe to support the channel, like this video, and share it with someone who loves sweet but dangerous love stories. And in the comments, tell me, where are you watching from? Also drop your thoughts on this story. We really love to hear from you, bestie. Amaka woke before the first bus horn cut through ajegunle. She didn't need an alarm. Her body had learnt fear the way other people learnt prayer, quietly, automatically, every single morning. The room she slept in was not really a room. It was a small corner beside the kitchen, blocked by a faded curtain that used to be white. The floor was hard. Her thin mattress had dents that matched her bones. Still, she rose fast, folded the mat neatly, and packed it away like someone who did not want to leave evidence that she existed. She washed her face with cold water from a plastic bowl, wiped her cheeks with the edge of her wrapper, and tied her hair back quickly. No mirror. No time. She already knew what she would see: tired eyes, a face that tried too hard to look strong. Outside, ajegunle was already moving. Someone was shouting for Accra customers. A generator coughed and came alive. A radio somewhere played low, mixing gospel with street noise. The air smelled like yesterday's smoke and today's frying oil. Amaka stepped out, careful not to make noise, and went straight to the kitchen. Auntie Bimbo liked to pretend she was doing Amaka a favor by keeping her in the house. She liked to say it like a testimony, the way some people talk after church. If not for me, she always said, you for dawn rot for street. Amaka had heard it so many times that sometimes she felt like her ears would bleed. But she still nodded each time, because in this house, silence was safety. She swept the sitting room first, then the corridor, then the small compound. Dust returned like it owned the place, but she kept sweeping anyway. When she finished, she washed yesterday's plates, scrubbed the pot with sand, and lit the stove. As she stirred the pap, her mind drifted, just for a second, to her parents. She tried not to do it, because memories could spoil her whole day. But sometimes it came without permission. Her mother's voice calling her Amaka Oma. Her father's laughter when he carried her like a feather and spun her in the air. Those sounds were the sweetest and the most painful. A knock came from the bedroom door. Then it opened. Tolu stepped out like someone who had never carried a burden in her life. She stretched, yawned, and looked around the kitchen with that lazy disgust she always wore on her face. Aha, Tolu said, dragging the word. So you're still here. Amaka kept stirring. Good morning. Tolu ignored that. She walked closer and peeped into the pot like a supervisor. This pap is too thick, she complained. Amaka's throat tightened. She had followed the measurements. But in this house, food was never right when Amaka cooked it. I can add small water, Amaka said softly. Tolu scoffed. Always doing anyhow. See your life. Amaka said nothing. She turned the spoon gently, her fingers steady even though her heart wasn't. Tolu picked a cup and drank water, then leaned against the wall and watched Amaka like a hawk. You know, she began, her voice sweet in a dangerous way. Sometimes I wonder why you're even still living here. Like, what exactly are you doing with your life? Amaka swallowed. I'm just helping. Tolu burst into a short laugh. Helping? You mean suffering? That's your full-time job. Housegirl. Cleaner. Cook. Charity case. The words landed like slaps. Amaka felt heat rise to her face, but she refused to show it. She focused on the pot, on the bubbling pap, on anything that wasn't Tolu's mouth. Tolu continued, enjoying herself. If not for my mummy, where would you be? Underbridge. Begging. Don't form like you have pride. Amaka's fingers tightened around the spoon. She wanted to speak. She wanted to ask Tolu why she was always angry at her for breathing. But she had learnt long ago that any reply would turn into trouble. So she said, breakfast will be ready soon. Tolu rolled her eyes and walked away, her slippers dragging on the floor like insult. Not long after, Auntie Bimbo came out. She was a big woman with loud footsteps and louder opinions. Even before she reached the kitchen, Amaka could feel her presence, like the air itself became heavier. Auntie Bimbo looked at the kitchen, looked at Amaka, and made a sound from her mouth like someone tasting bitterness. "So you didn't wash the back veranda yesterday," she said. Amaka blinked. "I washed it, Ma." Auntie Bimbo's eyes narrowed. "Don't argue with me, Amaka." Amaka's chest sank. "I'm not arguing, Ma." Auntie Bimbo walked closer, sniffed at the air, and lifted the pot cover like she wanted to catch Amaka doing crime. "This pap is not sweet," she declared, even without tasting it. "You don't have sense. You think food grows on tree?" Amaka's lips parted. She wanted to say there was sugar. There was milk. She had done her best. But the words died in her mouth. Auntie Bimbo dropped the cover with a bang. "See," she said, pointing her finger at Amaka's face. "You're lucky you're in this house. Lucky. Some people would have thrown you out since. You're eating my food, sleeping under my roof, using my water." Amaka nodded, eyes down. Auntie Bimbo went on, her voice rising, as if she wanted the neighbors to hear. "You don't have father. You don't have mother. If not for me, you for Dawn finish. So don't let pride enter you, oh. Know your place." The kitchen felt smaller. The air felt tight. Amaka's eyes stung, but she forced herself to blink the tears away quickly. Crying in this house was like pouring petrol near fire. "Yes, Ma," she whispered. Auntie Bimbo looked satisfied. She turned to the table. "Where is my tea?" Amaka rushed to pour it. As she placed the cup down, her hands shook slightly. She prayed nobody noticed. Tolu came back into the kitchen, dressed now, looking fresh, chewing bread like life was sweet. "Amaka," Auntie Bimbo called. "After breakfast, you will wash clothes. Clean the toilet. Then go market." Amaka answered, "Yes, Ma." Tolu smirked. "Charity case, you hear? Work is waiting." Amaka kept her eyes low. She didn't reply. She just stood there, quiet and small, swallowing all the words she wished she could say. But inside her chest, something was slowly forming, something she didn't understand yet. A tired kind of hope. Not the hope that things would magically change, but the hope that one day, she would step out of this house and breathe like a human being again. For now, she carried the tray of breakfast into the sitting room like she always did. Like a guest who was never invited. Like a burden that had learnt to walk. Amaka carried the empty plates back into the kitchen and rinsed them under the tap, her mind still buzzing from the way Auntie Bimbo's finger had pointed at her like she was a debt that refused to finish. She washed fast, wiped the table, and swept again, because in that house, cleanliness was not about being neat. It was about proving you deserved to breathe. Outside, the neighborhood noise rose. Women shouted prices. Children chased a flat football. A Danfo conductor screamed, "CMS. CMS. Enter with your change." And people laughed like life wasn't hard. Amaka tied her wrapper tighter and knelt by the bucket to scrub the pots. Her arms ached already, but she kept going. If she delayed, Auntie Bimbo would find something else to accuse her of. Behind her, the sitting room TV was on low volume. Auntie Bimbo liked to watch those morning programs where people talked about money and investment, as if money was as common as water. Then her phone rang. Auntie Bimbo answered like she was doing the caller a favor. "Hello? Who is that?" A woman's voice came through, loud enough that even from the kitchen, Amaka could catch pieces. "Auntie Bimbo, good morning. It's me, Auntie Kike." Amaka paused slightly. Auntie Kike was one of those women who always had information. She knew who was owing rent, whose husband was cheating, and who was about to travel abroad. "Ah, Kike," Auntie Bimbo said, tone changing. "What's up?" There was a short laugh on the other end. "I just got gist. Big gist. You know that your brother's Pekin." "Amaka." Amaka's hand slowed on the sponge. Her stomach tightened. Auntie Bimbo sat up. "Which gist again?" Auntie Kike's voice dropped into that juicy whisper people use when they want to feel important. "You know your late brother, God rest him. He did some small arrangement before he died. It's not plenty, but it's something. That land matter for the village. Remember that side? And that cooperative he joined in Lagos, then, the one they contribute monthly." Auntie Bimbo hissed. "Which cooperative?" "The one near a papa then," Auntie Kike insisted. "I heard they're paying out benefits now. You know those people can keep money for long. One of my people works there. He said the next of kin is the child. The name is there." Amaka's chest squeezed so tight she almost forgot to breathe. A benefit? Land? Something her father left? It sounded like a lie, the kind of lie hope tells you just before it breaks you. But Auntie Kike's voice was too confident. Auntie Bimbo sat forward. Are you sure? I'm sure, Auntie Kike said. Not millions, but it can settle somebody. And that land too, if person sells it, money go come. Auntie Bimbo made a small sound like someone tasting sweet food. Auntie Kike continued. But you know how these things are. If Amaka hears it, she will start forming. She can even leave your house. You people should handle it sharp, before outsiders enter. Amaka's hands began to shake. She quickly dipped them inside the water so nobody would notice. Auntie Bimbo's voice turned serious. Leave outsiders for me. Thank you. After the call ended, the sitting room became quiet. Too quiet. Amaka scrubbed harder, trying to calm her breathing. Her mind raced. If there was something for her, even small, it could change her life. It could mean school again. It could mean rent. It could mean stepping out of this house without begging anyone. She didn't even want revenge. She just wanted peace. But she knew Auntie Bimbo. Auntie Bimbo did not like anything that made Amaka stand taller. Auntie Bimbo stood up and walked into the kitchen. Amaka straightened quickly and lowered her eyes, the way she always did when danger entered the room. Auntie Bimbo leaned against the doorway and stared at her like she was seeing her for the first time. So, Auntie Bimbo said slowly, your father left something behind. Amaka's throat went dry. Ma! Auntie Bimbo waved her hand. Don't, Mommy. I know now. Since you want to start growing wings, I will clip it before it becomes problem. Amaka's heart thudded. I don't understand. Auntie Bimbo laughed, one cold laugh. You don't need to understand. Just know that this life, you don't just wake up and think things will be easy. You are under my roof. Anything that concerns you concerns me. Amaka wanted to ask how that was fair, but the words stuck behind her teeth. Auntie Bimbo walked closer, voice dropping. Listen to me. If you like, go and start telling people story. If you like, start dreaming. I will handle you. She turned and left the kitchen. Amaka stood there, frozen, water dripping from her hands, her mind blank with fear. Later that afternoon, when Amaka returned from the market with a small nylon bag of tomatoes, pepper, and sachet water, she met Tolu in the sitting room, grinning like someone holding secret laughter. Mummy said you should come, Tolu said. Amaka's feet felt heavy as she entered Auntie Bimbo's room. Auntie Bimbo sat on the bed, counting money, crumpled notes, the kind that smelled like sweat and pepper. She didn't look up. Amaka, she called, come and sit. Amaka did not sit. She stood by the door, hands clasped in front of her. Auntie Bimbo finally looked up. Her eyes were sharp. I have decided something, she said. Amaka swallowed. Yes, Ma. Auntie Bimbo nodded as if she was doing Amaka a favor. You're a grown girl. You can't be in my house forever. People are already talking. Amaka's heart beat faster. People are talking? They're talking, Auntie Bimbo said. And I don't like shame. She leaned forward. So I have found you a husband. Amaka blinked, confused. A husband? Tolu burst into laughter from the doorway. See her face? Auntie Bimbo raised a hand to silence her. Yes. A husband. You will marry and leave my house. Simple. Amaka's lips trembled. But Ma, I don't know anybody. I'm not ready. Auntie Bimbo cut her off. Ready? Who asked you if you're ready? When I carried you and fed you NKO, were you ready? Amaka felt tears rising. Please, Ma. Auntie Bimbo's voice hardened. And don't think you will use any benefit to do GRA here. Once you marry, your husband will handle you. Anything that concerns you will pass to him. Amaka's stomach dropped. So that was it. It wasn't marriage. It was control. Auntie Bimbo smiled like a woman who had won. And this husband I found, you can't refuse him. Because he is the kind of man everybody looks down on. A beggar. Tolu clapped her hands, screaming with laughter. Amaka will marry Beggar. Charity case marrying charity case. Amaka's body went cold. Auntie Bimbo stood up, towering over her. You will marry him. And by the time people finish laughing, you will remember that I saved you. Now go and cook. Amaka stumbled out of the room, her vision blurry, her heart pounding like a drum. In the kitchen, she gripped the edge of the table to steady herself. A beggar. A shame marriage. And somewhere, hidden behind Auntie Bimbo's smile, was that small benefit, something that should have been Amaka's hope. But in this house, hope was a thing they strangled quietly. And Amaka could feel the rope tightening already. Amaka hardly slept that night. Anytime she closed her eyes, she saw Auntie Bimbo's face, cold and satisfied, saying the word again like it was a curse. Beggar. The ceiling above her curtain space felt lower than usual, like it wanted to press her into the floor. Outside, generators hummed, and somewhere a couple argued in the open like their pain was public property. Amaka lay still, listening, hoping morning would delay. But morning in Ajegunle never delayed for anybody. Before daylight fully broke, Auntie Bimbo's voice cut through the house. Amaka, wake up. You think you came here to sleep? Amaka's body jumped up on its own. She hurried to wash her face, tie her wrapper, and sweep. Her hands moved fast, but her mind was slow, heavy with fear. Every sound made her flinch, pots clanging, slippers scraping, to lose laughter in the background like someone warming up for a show. After breakfast, Auntie Bimbo stood in the corridor with her handbag already on her arm, dressed like she was going to church. Dress up, she told Amaka. We're going out. Amaka's mouth went dry. Where are we going, Ma? Auntie Bimbo turned slowly. Did I ask you to question me? No, Ma, Amaka whispered. Tolu came out too, wearing fitted jeans and a bright top, chewing gum like life was sweet. I want to follow, Tolu said happily. I won't miss this one. Auntie Bimbo nodded like she had planned it. Good. You will follow. You will see with your eyes so you won't say I didn't do anything for her. Amaka's chest tightened. So they want witnesses. She changed into a simple dress, nothing fancy, nothing that could be accused of pride. She kept her eyes low as they walked out into the street. The sun was just beginning to show, but oshodi was already awake in the loudest way. Danfo buses packed people like sardine. Conductors shouted destinations with cracked voices. Traders spread goods on plastic tables, belts, phone chargers, pepper, slippers, secondhand clothes. The smell of exhaust, sweat, and frying oil mixed into something thick. Amaka followed behind Auntie Bimbo and Tolu as they squeezed through the crowd. Men pushed past them. A woman balanced a bucket on her head with a baby tied to her back. Someone argued over change. Someone else laughed loudly. Amaka felt small in the middle of it all. As they approached the underbridge area, the noise changed. It became rougher, more desperate. People sat on the ground with bowls out, calling for alms. Some looked sick. Some looked tired. Some looked like they had surrendered to the world. Auntie Bimbo's mouth curled in disgust. See this place? It's like dustbin of Lagos. Tolu giggled. Amaka is coming to meet her husband. Not here love is. Amaka's cheeks burned. She didn't answer. Her stomach was turning. Auntie Bimbo walked like she owned the road. She scanned faces like someone shopping for pepper. Then she stopped. There, she said. Amaka followed her gaze. A man sat slightly away from the others, close to a pillar. His clothes were rough and faded, an oversized shirt, worn trousers, slippers that had seen too many roads. A small nylon bag sat beside him. His hair was low and uneven, like someone had cut it with impatience. His face had a bit of dust, but his eyes were calm. Not empty. Not begging. Just calm. Like a man watching the world without asking it for permission. Auntie Bimbo stepped forward. Olu! The man lifted his head slowly. He looked at her, then at Tolu, then his gaze landed on Amaka. Amaka felt her breath hitch. He didn't stare at her body. He didn't look at her like meat or pity. He simply looked like someone who was taking note, quietly. Yes, he replied. His voice was low. Steady. Not shaky like a beggar pleading. It sounded controlled. Auntie Bimbo clapped her hands loudly, drawing attention. This is the girl, she announced like she was selling something. Amaka. The one I told you about. Some nearby people glanced over, curious. Tolu giggled again, loud enough for others to hear. Our charity case. Amaka's throat tightened. She wished she could disappear into the concrete. Auntie Bimbo pointed at Amaka. This girl will marry you. You people will do your life together. I'm tired of carrying her. Amaka's heart beat wildly. She expected the man, Olu, to laugh or beg for money or ask for conditions. Instead, Olu stood up slowly. He wasn't as tall as some men around, but he carried himself in a strange way, like he knew exactly where his shoulders should be. His slippers scraped the ground, but his posture stayed straight. He looked at Auntie Bimbo. You said she is an orphan. Auntie Bimbo lifted her chin. Yes. No father. No mother. Olu's eyes flicked to Amaka again, softer this time. And you want her married quickly? Yes, Auntie Bimbo snapped. So will you do it or not? Don't waste my time. I'm not the one begging you. It's you that should be grateful. Tolu laughed. Mummy, he should even kneel. Olu didn't react. He didn't smile. He didn't get angry. He simply nodded once. I will marry her, he said. Amaka blinked. Auntie Bimbo blinked too, like she didn't expect it to be that easy. Tolu's laughter stopped for a second. Wait, seriously? Olu repeated it, still calm. I will marry her. One of the men nearby whistled, amused. A woman shook her head like she had seen everything in Lagos. A small crowd began to form because Lagos people loved two things: drama and free entertainment. Auntie Bimbo recovered first. Her lips stretched into a satisfied smile. Good. At least you have sense. She turned to Amaka sharply. You heard? Pack your things. You're leaving my house. Amaka's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Her legs felt weak. Olu looked at her again and spoke, not to Auntie Bimbo, but to her. What is your name? He asked quietly. Amaka, she replied, voice thin. He nodded like he was locking it into his memory. Amaka. The way he said her name sounded different from the way people in that house said it. Not like a burden. Not like an insult. Just her name. Auntie Bimbo snapped her fingers. Olu, we will go and do introduction. Don't misbehave, oh. If you mess up, I will disgrace you. Olu answered, I understand. No begging. No bargaining. No shaking voice. Just quiet confidence. As they began to walk away from the underbridge, Amaka glanced back once. The place was still noisy, still rough, still full of struggle. But Olu walked beside them like he wasn't swallowed by it. And in Amaka's chest, fear fought with a strange, confusing thought she didn't want to believe. This man was not what he looked like. Not at all. The moment they got back to Ajegunle, Auntie Bimbo moved like a woman who had finally caught the rat she had been setting trap for. She didn't even allow Amaka to sit down and drink water. Go and pack your load, she snapped the moment they entered the compound. Pack it now. Today is today. Amaka stood there with dust still on her slippers from oshodi, her throat tight. Ma, today? Auntie Bimbo faced her with a hard look. Are you deaf? Do you want me to change my mind? Before I count 3, you will enter that corner and pack your things. Tolu leaned against the wall and laughed. Charity case, pack well, oh, don't forget your spoon. Amaka walked into her small curtain space like someone walking into punishment. Her things were not plenty. 2 dresses, 1 wrapper, a small plastic bag of toiletries, 1 old Bible her mother gave her, and a pair of sandals that had almost lost their shape. As she folded the clothes, her hands shook. This was not how a marriage was supposed to happen. She had seen weddings before, small ones, big ones, ones with dancing and prayer and mothers crying happy tears. This one felt like eviction with extra insults. She came out with her small bag. Auntie Bimbo collected it from her like she was collecting rubbish. Good. Now sit down. We're calling people. Amaka's heart pounded as Auntie Bimbo began to make calls. Hello, Auntie Saad? Please come outside small. We're doing something. Yes, you'll see. Bring your phone, oh. Then another call. Mama Chinyere? Come. You know those things you like to watch? Come and see one now. Amaka's stomach sank with every, bring your phone. Tolu was already excited. She jumped from room to room, telling anyone who would listen. Guess what? My cousin is marrying a beggar today. Yes, the one from Oshodi underbridge. Amaka wanted to vanish. She wanted to wake up and realize it was a bad dream. But the compound was already filling up like a stage being set. Women came out with wrappers tied high, gossip ready on their tongues. Men leaned on the fence, grinning. Children ran around shouting the news like a carnival announcement. Beggar wedding. Beggar wedding. Olu arrived later, walking into the compound quietly like someone stepping into a room already on fire. He was still in his rough clothes. Only his face looked a bit cleaner, as if he had washed quickly somewhere. The nylon bag was still with him, and his calm eyes remained the same. The crowd reacted immediately. "Na him be the groom," someone shouted. "See as he dressed like person way wan collect alms." Another woman laughed. A man chuckled loudly. "Lagos is a movie." Tolu practically danced. She ran close to Olu and circled him like she was inspecting a goat. "Oga, welcome o. You never chop? Hope you no go beg for rice for your own wedding." People laughed. Some raised their phones higher. Amaka stood behind the curtain of bodies, holding her small bag tight, shame burning her skin. She looked at the ground because she couldn't bear the eyes watching her. Auntie Bimbo came out, hands on waist, smiling like a victorious commander. "Everybody gather," she announced. "Today is a joyful day in this compound. We are marrying out this girl, so she will not bring shame to my house." The word shame hit Amaka hard. A woman near the back murmured, "Poor thing." But another replied, She should thank God she's even getting husband. Auntie Bimbo waved a hand at someone. Call Baba Segan. Baba Segan was the neighborhood pastor/elder that people called for urgent prayers and rushed ceremonies. He arrived in a simple shirt with a worn Bible, looking confused until Auntie Bimbo whispered into his ear. His face changed slightly, but he said nothing. In Ajegunle, people had seen enough to know when to mind their business. A plastic chair was brought outside. A small table followed. Somebody placed a bottle of water like they were setting a serious altar. And just like that, the wedding began. Bring the bride, someone shouted. Amaka's legs refused to move at first. Auntie Bimbo turned sharply. Amaka, come out. Amaka stepped forward slowly. Her eyes were shiny. Her lips trembled. She wore her simplest dress, the one that didn't even fit her properly anymore. The crowd went quiet for 1 second, just long enough for her to hope someone would stop it. Then Tolu broke the silence. Look at her, she said loudly, laughing. Bride without makeup. Bride without gelly. Bride marrying Oshodi king. Laughter exploded again. Phones rose. Videos started recording. People zoomed in on Amaka's face like her tears were entertainment. Amaka's chest tightened. A tear slipped out despite her effort. Auntie Bimbo hissed. Stop that crying. You want to spoil my day. Amaka wiped her face quickly. Baba Segan cleared his throat and opened his Bible. We are here today to join this man and this woman. Auntie Bimbo interrupted. Baba, no long talk. Just do 'em sharp. We're not doing party. Baba Segan nodded, his eyes flicking to Amaka with a small pity. He turned to Olu. My son, do you accept this woman as your wife? Olu answered without hesitation. Yes. Baba Segan turned to Amaka. My daughter, do you accept this man as your husband? Amaka's throat closed. The compound went very quiet. Even the children stopped running. She looked at Auntie Bimbo. The woman's eyes were hard. She looked at Tolu. Tolu was smiling wide, waiting for drama. She looked at the crowd, phones still pointed, faces eager. Then she looked at Olu. He wasn't smiling. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't enjoying the shame show. He just stood there, calm, looking at her like he could see how trapped she was. Not pitying her. Just understanding. Amaka's voice came out small. Yes. The word tasted bitter. It felt like surrender. Baba Segan murmured prayers quickly, joined their hands, and declared them husband and wife in a hurry that felt like a transaction. Some people clapped sarcastically. Tolu shouted, Bride, kneel and greet your husband, nah. The crowd laughed again. Amaka's eyes filled. She tried to smile, but it came out broken. Auntie Bimbo leaned close to her ear and whispered, If you embarrass me, you will see. Amaka swallowed her tears and stood still while the world mocked her. Then Auntie Bimbo shoved her small bag into her hands. Carry your load and follow your husband. From today, you are not my problem again. The words cut deep. Amaka stepped forward, humiliation heavy on her shoulders like a wet cloth. Behind her, the phones kept recording. The laughter followed her out of the compound. And she walked beside Olu, her new husband, without anyone to hold her hand, without anyone to say, It will be okay. Only her tears, her shame, and the strange quiet of a man who still hadn't begged even once. They didn't leave Ajegunle with any celebration behind them. Only laughter, camera flashes, and the final words Auntie Bimbo threw like a stone. From today, you are not my problem again. Amaka walked beside Olu as if her legs were not her own. She could still hear Tolu's voice in her head, still see the way people's phones followed her tears. Even when they turned the corner and the compound disappeared, the shame followed her like a shadow. Olu didn't speak much. He just led the way through the bus stop, past the noise, past the traders, until they entered a danfo that smelled of sweat and engine smoke. They sat at the back. Amaka kept her eyes low, hands clasped tight around her small bag. She expected people to stare, to laugh again, to ask questions. But the bus was full of Lagos problems. Conductors shouting for change, passengers complaining, someone arguing about space. Nobody cared about her forced marriage. Lagos moved on quickly. Still, Amaka's chest stayed tight. They got down around Mushin when the sky was turning orange. The area was busy, rough, and loud in the way only Lagos could be. Hawkers moved between cars, shouting pure water. Plantain chips. Boli. The road had potholes like open mouths. The air tasted like smoke and pepper. Olu walked ahead, carrying his nylon bag. Amaka followed, dragging her sandals. The home he brought her to was a small compound with cracked paint and narrow passageways. They climbed a short stair and stopped at a door that looked like it had been kicked too many times. Olu brought out a key from his pocket and opened it. Inside was one room. A mattress on the floor. A small table. A plastic chair. A bucket in the corner. A small kerosene stove. A curtain that separated a tiny bathroom space, just a corner with a bowl and a jerrycan. Amaka's heart sank. This was worse than what she left. She stood by the door, her bag in her hands, waiting for what she feared most. She had heard stories, men who treated women like property, men who beat their wives the first night to show authority, men who believed a forced marriage meant a forced body. Her skin went cold. Olu dropped his nylon bag gently, like he respected even the air. He turned to her. "You can sit," he said. His voice was calm, not harsh. Amaka didn't move. She just stared at the floor. Olu noticed. He didn't laugh. He didn't get angry. He nodded slowly, as if he understood the fear sitting inside her. "I know you didn't choose this," he said quietly. "You don't have to be afraid of me." Amaka's throat burned. She wanted to say, "How do you know?" She wanted to ask, "Why did you agree?" But her voice refused to come out. Olu picked up the plastic chair and placed it closer to her. "Sit. You must be tired." Amaka sat slowly, still tense, still ready to stand and run. Olu moved to the corner and poured water from a jerrycan into a bowl. He washed his hands, then washed his face. The way he did it was neat, careful, like someone trained in order, not chaos. He turned back. "Have you eaten since morning?" Amaka shook her head. The shame in her stomach had swallowed hunger. But now that she was alone with reality, hunger returned like a headache. Olu nodded. "I will get food." Amaka's eyes widened. "You're going out?" "Yes." She panicked. "But I don't know this place." "I won't be long," he replied. "Lock the door from inside. Nobody will enter." He walked to the door, paused, then added, "And please breathe. You're safe here." Safe. The word sounded strange, like a language she didn't understand. When Olu stepped out, Amaka locked the door with shaky fingers and leaned against it. Her chest rose and fell fast. She looked around the room again. Poor, yes. Small, yes. But it was quiet. Nobody was shouting at her. Nobody was calling her charity case. She sat on the mattress and stared at her small bag. A tear rolled down her cheek without permission. She wiped it quickly. "Amaka, you must be strong," she whispered to herself, but her voice broke. Minutes passed. Then longer minutes. She feared he wouldn't come back. She feared he would come back angry. She feared everything. Then she heard the key. The door opened, and Olu entered holding a nylon bag that smelled like hot rice and stew. He dropped it on the table. "I bought rice and beans. It's not much." Amaka stared. "You bought food?" Olu looked at her like it was the most normal thing. "Yes. Eat." He brought out 2 plastic spoons from somewhere and set one in front of her. He sat on the floor, not on the mattress, leaving space between them like he was careful not to scare her. Amaka hesitated. Olu said gently, "Nobody will beat you if you eat first." The words hit her like a slap of truth. Her eyes stung again. She picked the spoon and began to eat slowly. The food was simple but warm, and warmth entered her body like healing. As she ate, she watched him. His posture was strange for a beggar. Even sitting on the floor, he sat straight. His shoulders were controlled. His movements were measured. Not like the rough men around Ajegunle who moved like anger lived in their bones. And his speech. It wasn't the street slang she expected. He spoke simple, yes, but clean. No unnecessary noise. No begging tone. No trembling. After they ate, Olu stood, picked up the nylons, and tied them neatly. Then his phone rang. Amaka's eyes followed the sound automatically. Olu brought out a phone from his pocket. It was too clean. The screen wasn't cracked. It didn't look like something that had lived under a bridge. Even the way he held it looked careful, private. He glanced at the screen. For the first time since she met him, something flickered across his face, quick, controlled, like a shadow passing over light. He turned the phone face down without answering. Amaka's heart beat faster. Olu looked at her and spoke calmly, like nothing happened. "You can sleep on the mattress." "I will sleep on the floor." Amaka blinked. "On the floor?" "Yes," he said, already pulling a thin mat from the corner. "You won't be comfortable if you're tense all night." Amaka didn't know what to say. In one day, she had been thrown out like trash, married like a joke, and dragged into a strange room in Mushin with a man she didn't know. She had expected pain. But this man, Olu was giving her space, food, and a kind of respect she hadn't felt in a long time. As he lay down on the mat, he spoke once more, voice low. Sleep, Amaka. Nothing will happen to you tonight. Amaka lay on the mattress, staring into the darkness, listening to his steady breathing on the floor. Outside, mushin noise continued, sirens far away, shouting generators. But inside, there was a quiet that felt unreal. And as sleep finally pulled at her eyelids, one thought stayed awake in her mind. This man is hiding something. Not just a clean phone. Something bigger. Amaka woke up to an unfamiliar feeling. Silence. Not complete silence. This was mushin after all. Outside, the street had already started shouting. A woman yelled at a child. A bus horn blared. Somebody's generator coughed like it was clearing its throat. But inside the room, there was no voice calling her useless. No slippers rushing to her corner. No angry finger pointing. She sat up slowly and looked around. Olu's mat on the floor was empty. For one fast second, fear gripped her. He is gone. He has left me here. Then she noticed something on the table. A nylon bag tied neatly, and beside it, a small plastic plate covered with another nylon. Food. And a 50 naira note placed under the plate like someone intentionally didn't want it to fly away. Amaka's stomach tightened. She stood and walked closer, her heart beating like she was about to be punished for touching it. She untied the nylon carefully. Bread and akra. Still warm. The smell alone made her eyes sting. She stared at it, confused. In ajegunle, food was something you earned with pain. Here, it was waiting for her like she mattered. She sat down and ate slowly. Halfway through, she heard the key. Olu entered, looking the same, calm, steady. He carried only his small nylon bag, like he always did. You're awake, he said. Amaka nodded, swallowing. You brought food. Yes, he replied simply. You have to eat. Amaka's voice came out small. Where do you get money? Olu didn't answer directly. He washed his hands, wiped his face, and sat on the floor again instead of the mattress. I will go out, he said. You can rest today. Don't wander. Lock the door. Amaka stared at him. You're going again? Yes. She wanted to ask 100 questions, but only one came out. You will come back? Olu's eyes lifted to hers. I will come back. Then he left again. That was day one. He returned late evening, when the sky was dark and the street lights were struggling. Amaka had spent the day sitting, listening, and thinking. Her body kept expecting a storm. Auntie Bimbo's voice bursting in, to lose laughter, the neighbors knocking to insult her. But nobody came. And then Olu returned with another nylon bag. Rice and stew this time, and a bottle of water. Amaka looked up as he placed it on the table. You bought food again, she whispered. Olu nodded. Eat. She watched him closely as she ate, trying to catch lies in his face. But his expression stayed calm. Not fake calm. Not a forced smile. A calm that looked like discipline. After eating, she finally asked again, more boldly. Olu, she said. You're not begging for money. He glanced at her. No. But they said, Amaka swallowed. They said you are a beggar. Olu didn't flinch at the word. He only stood and tied the nylons neatly, the way he always did. People say many things, he replied. Amaka's fingers curled around the edge of the mattress. So what are you? Olu paused for a second, like he was choosing his words carefully. Not what they think, he said. That night, he slept on the mat again, leaving her the mattress without argument, without acting like he deserved praise. He just did it like it was normal. Amaka lay awake long after his breathing steadied. Her mind was sharp, counting every sign. The clean phone he didn't answer, the way he kept his voice low, the way he carried himself like someone who had rules even in poverty. Morning came again. Day 2. Amaka woke up to food again. This time it was pap and mwamwa, neatly tied in nylon. And beside it, a 200 naira note. Not much, but enough to buy small things. Amaka picked the money up and stared at it for a long time like it was a trick. When Olu came in briefly that morning, she didn't greet him with fear this time. She greeted him with suspicion. You keep dropping money, she said. Where are you getting it? Olu poured water into the bowl and washed his hands. It's for you. That's not my question. Olu wiped his hands calmly. I work. Amaka frowned. Where? Olu picked up his nylon bag. I told you. I work. You leave early, Amaka pressed, her voice shaking. And you come back late. You don't tell me where you go. You don't tell me anything. I don't even know you. Olu's eyes rested on her. He didn't look annoyed. He didn't raise his voice. He just looked at her like he understood her fear wasn't disrespect. It was survival. Amaka continued, words spilling out now. I don't know what you agreed with my aunt. I don't know if you're using me. I don't know if I'm safe in this marriage. I don't know. Her voice broke. Silence filled the room for a moment, heavy and honest. Olu stepped closer, not too close, but closer than before. His voice was gentle. Amaka, he said, I won't harm you. Amaka laughed bitterly, wiping her face with the back of her hand. Men always say that. Olu nodded like he accepted that truth. Then he spoke again slowly, like he wanted the words to enter her carefully. I know you were treated like you don't matter, he said. I know you were mocked. I know you were pushed into this without a choice. Amaka's throat tightened again. So why did you agree? Olu's eyes held hers steady. Because I saw something, he said simply. Amaka blinked. What? Olu didn't answer that. Instead, he looked away briefly, like there was a boundary he wasn't ready to cross. Then he faced her again and gave her the only thing he seemed willing to give for now. One clear line, firm like a promise. Give me 7 days, he said. Amaka stared at him, confused. 7 days for what? Olu picked up his nylon bag again. 7 days. That's all I'm asking. He moved to the door, opened it, then paused with his hand on the knob. Eat, he added softly. Rest. Don't worry too much. Then he left, early again, like he always did. Amaka stood in the middle of the room, the 200 naira note still in her hand, her heart beating hard. Outside, mushin continued its noise. People shouted. Cars honked. Life moved on. But inside her, the number 7 sat like a stone. Because whatever Olu was doing, whatever he was hiding, whatever plan he was walking into every morning and returning from every night, it was counting down. Day 3 started the same way day 1 and day 2 had started. Food on the table, neatly tied, and money placed beside it like it was a normal routine. But Amaka was no longer the same girl who had entered this room shaking. She still didn't understand Olu. She still didn't know where he went. She still didn't know what 7 days truly meant. Yet, something inside her had shifted. Not because life suddenly became sweet, but because for the first time in a long time, nobody woke her up with insult. She ate the food slowly, sat by the window, and listened to Mushin breathe. The fear in her chest was still there, but it wasn't screaming anymore. It was quieter now, waiting and watching. That morning, Olu returned briefly, only to wash up and change the way he always did, quick and neat. He didn't wear new clothes, but he adjusted his shirt like someone who cared about how he looked, even when the world called him beggar. Amaka watched him. Olu, she said. He looked at her. Yes. How long will this calm last? The words came out before she could stop them. Because my aunt will not just leave me like that. Olu paused, then nodded as if he had been expecting that question. She won't, he said. Amaka's heart tightened. So what happens when she comes? Olu didn't answer directly. He only said, just be steady. Don't react to noise. Noise. That was what Auntie Bimbo's wickedness was. Noise that could shake a person until they forgot who they were. Olu picked up his nylon bag and went out again. Amaka stayed inside as usual. She washed small clothes, wiped the floor, and arranged the room. Not because Olu asked her to, but because her body had been trained to stay useful. Still, she noticed something. She wasn't doing it with panic anymore. She was doing it with quiet control, like she was slowly taking her life back, one small action at a time. Around midday, there was a knock. Amaka froze. Nobody came here. Nobody knew her. Nobody was supposed to knock. Another knock came, louder. Who is that? She asked, her voice tight. It's me, Mama Royce, a woman replied from outside. I'm your husband's neighbor. Open small. Amaka hesitated, then opened the door just enough to see. A middle-aged woman stood there with a fake friendly smile. Her eyes moved quickly, scanning the room behind Amaka like she was counting what she could report. Good afternoon, the woman said sweetly. So you're the new wife. Amaka nodded slowly. Good afternoon, Ma. Mama Royce leaned in a bit. How body? Hope marriage is sweet. Hope your husband is treating you well. Amaka's throat tightened. The questions were too many, too fast. This wasn't friendliness. This was investigation. Before Amaka could answer, another voice joined. So this is her, a younger woman said, stepping forward. Now her dem married to Beggar. The younger woman laughed and held up her phone like she wanted a picture. Amaka's stomach dropped. Mama Royce chuckled, pretending it was all joke. Aha, no do like that. Leave her. But her eyes were still sharp, still hungry for information. Amaka understood instantly. Ani Bimbo had sent them. She forced her voice to remain calm. My husband is not around. Mama Royce clicked her tongue. He always goes out, abi? That one is normal. But you, are you okay? You don't look like someone enjoying. Amaka swallowed. I'm fine. The younger woman leaned closer, lowering her voice like gossip. So he has started beating you? Talk true. Amaka's hands shook slightly, but she kept her face blank. Nobody is beating me. The younger woman frowned, disappointed. So what are you doing here? Just sitting. Amaka felt anger rise, hot sudden. But she remembered Olu's words. Don't react to noise. She breathed in, then out. I'm okay, she repeated, and this time her voice was firm. Mama Royce's smile faltered. Ehen. Okay. We just came to check on you. You know, Lagos is dangerous. Marriage too. Amaka nodded once. Thank you. She began to close the door gently. The younger woman tried one last push. If you need help, come out and tell us oh. Some of us we can talk to your husband. Amaka met her eyes. Thank you, but I'm fine. She closed the door completely and locked it. Her chest heaved. She leaned against the door, eyes stinging. Not because she was weak, but because she could see the game clearly now. Auntie Bimbo wanted a report. She wanted proof that Amaka was suffering. She wanted to laugh again. Amaka wiped her face slowly and went back to sit on the mattress. When Olu returned that evening, he immediately noticed the change in her eyes. Someone came, he asked. Amaka hesitated, then nodded. 2 women. They said they're your neighbors. Olu's jaw tightened for a second, so quick Amaka almost missed it. Then his face went calm again. What did they ask? He said. They asked if you beat me, Amaka replied, bitterness in her voice. They wanted me to say I'm suffering. Olu was silent for a moment, staring at the floor like he was holding something back. Then he asked, What did you tell them? I told them I'm fine, Amaka said, surprising herself with how steady she sounded. I didn't give them anything. Olu lifted his eyes to hers. Something passed between them, quiet respect. That was wise, he said. Day 4 came with more pressure. Ani Bimbo herself called. Amaka stared at the phone when it rang. Her fingers trembled. Part of her wanted to answer quickly, like she always had. Another part wanted to throw the phone against the wall. She picked it up and answered softly. Hello, Ma. Auntie Bimbo's voice came through sharp. So you're alive? Amaka swallowed. Yes, Ma. Where is your husband? Ani Bimbo demanded. Or has he run away? I knew it. I knew that beggar would disgrace you. Amaka's mouth tightened. He didn't run away. Ani Bimbo hissed. Don't lie. You want to start forming now because of small marriage? If you're suffering, come back. I will still manage you, but you will obey me. Amaka held the phone tightly. In the past, she would have begged. She would have said sorry. She would have pleaded to return. But she didn't. I'm fine where I am, Amaka said quietly. There was a pause on the line, as if Ani Bimbo didn't believe her ears. You're fine, Auntie Bimbo repeated, voice rising. With Beggar. Amaka's voice stayed calm. Yes, Ma. Auntie Bimbo scoffed. Okay, continue there. When hunger finishes you, you will know. She cut the call. Amaka stared at the phone, breathing hard. Then she put it down. No tears. Just a strange calm. That evening, Olu returned and saw her washing plates. He watched her for a moment before speaking. You didn't call her back, he said. Amaka shook her head. No. Olu nodded. Good. Later, as they ate, Amaka noticed something else. A small boy outside the compound was crying, begging for food. His voice entered the room through the window. Amaka stood up, carried a small portion of food, and stepped outside carefully. She gave it to the boy without thinking twice. When she came back in, Olu was watching her. Not judging. Studying. You didn't have to, he said softly. Amaka shrugged, sitting down. I know. Olu's eyes stayed on her a little longer. But you still did. Amaka didn't understand why that mattered. But Olu looked like a man confirming something he already suspected. That even after wickedness, Amaka's heart was still soft, and that kind of loyalty under pressure was rare. And whatever was waiting at the end of those 7 days, Olu was watching to see if Amaka would remain herself when the world tried to break her. Day 5 arrived with a different kind of tension. Not the loud tension of ajegunle insults, or the sharp pressure of Auntie Bimbo's calls. This one was quiet, sitting in the room like a stranger that refused to introduce itself. Amaka noticed at the moment Olu stepped out that morning. He didn't say much, but he moved faster. He checked the door twice. He looked outside longer than usual, as if he was counting something in the street. Then he turned to her. "Today, don't open for anybody," he said. Amaka's stomach tightened. "Why?" Olu didn't snap. He didn't sigh like she was disturbing him. He just answered calmly, "Just don't." Then he left. Amaka locked the door and sat on the mattress, trying to keep her mind quiet, but her thoughts wouldn't obey. She stared at the small table, at the corner where his nylon bag usually sat, at the mat he slept on. Everything in the room looked normal, but inside her, worry was growing. Hours passed. Morning became afternoon. Olu didn't return. By evening, Amaka's hands were cold. She tried to distract herself, cleaning the room, washing the few clothes she had, arranging the bed. But fear kept returning, tapping her shoulder. What if he has been arrested? What if he was lying from the start? What if this is the day everything turns bad? When darkness fell, she sat with her knees pulled to her chest, listening to the street. Then, close to night, the key finally turned. Amaka sprang up so fast her wrapper almost loosened. Olu entered and shut the door behind him. For the first time, he looked slightly tired, just slightly. Not weak, not defeated. Just like someone who had walked a long day with his mind busy. And in his hand were 2 nylon bags. Amaka stared. "What is that?" Olu dropped them on the table and began to bring out the contents. Clothes. Not secondhand, not torn, not the kind you buy in a hurry from roadside. These ones looked fresh. Clean. Proper. A simple, neat dress for her. A pair of flat sandals that still had that new smell. Even a small pouch, like something a woman could keep her things in. Amaka's mouth opened, then closed. Her heart began to pound again, not from hunger this time, but from confusion. "Olu," her voice shook. "Where did you get these?" Olu didn't answer immediately. He sat down on the floor, exhaled once, then looked at her. "Amaka," he said quietly, "I need you to prepare." "Prepare." The word landed in her chest like stone. "Prepare for what?" she asked, her voice rising. "Olu, I don't understand you. One day you're a beggar. Next thing, you're buying new clothes. You leave early, you come late. You don't explain. You just keep saying 7 days, 7 days, 7 days. Her eyes stung, but she refused to cry. "What is happening?" Olu watched her carefully, his face calm. He waited until she finished pouring out the fear. Then he said, "Tomorrow is day 7. Amaka's throat tightened. "So?" Olu's voice stayed steady. "So I need you to be ready." Amaka laughed once, sharp and nervous. "Ready to suffer more?" Olu didn't flinch. "No." Amaka shook her head, panic rising. "Then ready for what? Are you taking me somewhere? Are you running? Did you offend people? Are you using me to hide?" Olu stood up slowly. He didn't move towards her too fast. He didn't corner her. He kept a respectful distance, like he understood she was a wounded animal. "Look at me," he said gently. Amaka tried not to, but her eyes lifted to his. "I will not hurt you," Olu said. "I have not hurt you since you entered this room." Amaka swallowed. Olu continued, voice low and calm. "I know fear has been your food for a long time. So you expect trouble even when there is peace." Amaka's fingers clenched. "Because peace never lasts for me." Olu nodded once. "I know." He picked up the dress and placed it on the mattress with care. "Wear this tomorrow." Amaka stared at it like it could bite her. "What if I refuse?" she whispered. Olu's eyes held hers. "Then I won't force you. But I'm asking you, quietly, to trust me small." Trust. Amaka wanted to scream. Trust was what had ruined her life so many times. Trusting Ani Bimbo when she promised to train her. Trusting neighbors when they said they would help. Trusting that kindness would protect her. And yet, Olu had been different. He had fed her without insulting her. He had slept on the floor without demanding anything. He had spoken to her like she was a person. Amaka's voice dropped. "Why did you agree to marry me?" Olu went quiet for a moment. His jaw tightened slightly, then relaxed. "I will tell you everything," he said finally. "But not tonight." Amaka's heart sank. "So you're still hiding?" Olu nodded. "Yes." He didn't lie. That honesty alone made her chest ache. "Because if I tell you now," he added, "you might panic and run. And if you run, you'll go back to the same people that broke you." Amaka's eyes filled. She didn't want to admit he was right. Part of her still wanted to run back to the only place she knew, even if it was wicked. Olu's voice softened. "Sleep. Tomorrow will answer you." That night, Amaka couldn't sleep. Olu lay on his mat quiet. Amaka lay on the mattress, staring at the new dress folded neatly at her feet like a question mark. Outside, mushin noise kept moving. Somewhere, someone sang along to loud music. A bike passed. A dog barked. Then, close to midnight, Olu's phone rang. Amaka's heart jumped. Olu sat up quickly, like he had been waiting for it. He reached for the phone, again too clean, too new. And this time he didn't silence it immediately. He moved towards the door, as if to step outside. Amaka's ears sharpened. The room was small. The walls were thin. Even if he stepped near the door, she could still hear. Olu answered in a low voice. Yes. A man's voice came through, respectful and urgent. Good evening, sir. Amaka froze. Sir? The voice continued. Everything is set. Tomorrow morning, by the time you arrive, the arrangements will be complete. Olu's voice stayed calm. Good. The man spoke again, almost like he was confirming the most important thing. And the vehicle will be ready. No mistakes. Olu replied, no mistakes. The call ended quickly. Olu stood still for a moment, phone in hand, as if he was carrying the weight of something bigger than mushin, bigger than ajegunle, bigger than the underbridge lie. Amaka lay on the mattress, heart pounding so hard it hurt. Somebody had called Olu sir. And they said tomorrow like it was a date that mattered. Amaka stared into the darkness, her hands gripping her wrapper. Day 7 was no longer just a number. It was a door. And tomorrow, that door was going to open, whether she was ready or not. Amaka didn't sleep. She lay on the mattress, eyes open, listening to mushin breathe through the thin walls. The call she overheard kept replaying in her head like a stubborn song. Good evening, sir. Everything is set tomorrow. Sir. That word did not belong to the man who sat under oshodi bridge with rough clothes and a nylon bag. That word did not belong to the beggar that Auntie Bimbo used to disgrace her. Yet she heard it clearly, and her body had been tense ever since. When morning finally came, Amaka sat up slowly, the fear still sitting in her chest like a stone. Olu was already awake. Not rushing, not panicking, just calm, like the day had been waiting for him. He looked at her and nodded once. Good morning, he said softly. Amaka's voice came out dry. Is today the day? Olu didn't pretend. He didn't give her long talk. He only said the words he had been building toward since day 1. Today is day 7. Amaka swallowed hard. Olu, please. He understood that please was not one request. It was many. Please don't embarrass me again. Please don't drag me into trouble. Please don't be another person using me. I won't scare you, Olu said calmly. But I need you to follow my lead. No panic. Amaka nodded, even though her hands were shaking. Olu placed the small items he bought on the table, simple things, not flashy. A small sponge, wipes, cream, even a small perfume that smelled clean and quiet. Bathe, he said. Take your time. Amaka stepped behind the curtain and poured water into the bucket. She washed slowly, scrubbing like she was trying to remove the old version of herself. The girl who used to kneel for insults, the girl who learned to say, yes, ma, even when her heart was breaking. She dried her body, then wore the new dress and sandals Olu had brought. The dress wasn't loud. It was neat and classy in a simple way. When she stepped out, she didn't look like someone going to be disgraced. She looked like someone that mattered. She didn't know how to hold that feeling yet, but it sat on her shoulders like a new cloth. Olu looked at her and nodded again. You look good, he said, quiet and sure. Amaka's eyes stung. She blinked fast and looked away before tears could fall. Olu changed too, into clean clothes that fit him properly. Not the kind of outfit that shouted wealth, but the kind that showed control. Everything about him looked intentional, from the way he adjusted his shirt to the way he stood straight without effort. Amaka's heart started beating faster. Olu, who are you? Before he answered, a sound cut through the morning. A smooth horn. Not Danfo. Not Kiki. A car horn that sounded expensive even without seeing the car. Olu walked to the window and glanced out. They're here. Amaka's stomach flipped. They. Olu turned to her. Come. Amaka followed him down the stairs, her breath tight. The compound was already waking up. People stepping out, children running, women arranging their goods. Then they saw it. A Rolls-Royce was parked right there like it belonged in mushin. Polished body. Tinted glass. Quiet power sitting on the street like a secret that had finally grown tired of hiding. Amaka froze. Her feet refused to move. What is this? Her voice came out like air. A suited driver stepped out quickly and opened the back door. His posture was respectful, his eyes lowered. "Good morning, sir," he greeted. Amaka's knees went weak. "Sir again." Neighbors began to gather instantly like magnet. Phones came out. Whispers started flying. "Ah! Rolls-Royce for this area? Now who be that guy? Is that not the beggar man?" Amaka stood there, hearing everything, feeling the old shame trying to crawl back. But Olu's hand touched her lightly. Not dragging, not forcing, just steadying her. "Enter," he said. Amaka entered the back seat like she was entering another world. The interior smelled like clean leather and calm money. Olu entered beside her, and the door closed softly. As the car began to move, Amaka stared out the window, her hands tight in her lap. She finally turned to him, voice shaking. "Olu, who are you?" Olu looked at her fully now, not dodging, not hiding. "I'm Olu Akinyemi," he said. "I'm not a beggar. I hid it on purpose." Amaka's throat tightened. "Why?" Olu's voice stayed gentle. "Because I needed to see people's hearts. I needed to know who would still show respect when they believed someone had nothing." Amaka swallowed. "And you chose me?" Olu nodded slightly. "I saw your dignity, even when you were being crushed. You didn't insult me. You didn't become wicked like them. You stayed you." Amaka's eyes filled again. She looked away, breathing hard as the Rolls-Royce rolled through Lagos like a headline. Outside, people stared, pointed, recorded. A subtle escort followed, quiet cars, watchful men. Not noisy, but obvious enough to announce. This is not normal. Amaka watched the city pass and realized something with a cold, clear certainty. This wasn't escape. This was a return. A return with proof. And they were heading straight back to Ajegunle. Back to the place where they laughed, so the truth could land where the shame started. The Rolls-Royce didn't slow down until Ajegunle began to show itself again. Tight streets, noisy junctions, people selling everything from pure water to phone cases. Children running, as if the whole road belonged to them. Amaka's chest tightened the moment she recognized the turns. This place had swallowed her dignity for too long. The car moved gently, but it carried a weight that made heads turn. The polished body of the Rolls-Royce looked almost unreal against the cracked roads and restless noise. People pointed immediately. People stopped walking. People held their phones up before they even understood what they were recording. "Ah! Now film. Who carry Rolls-Royce enter here? See convoy." Amaka sat upright, hands on her lap, breathing the way Olu had taught her, slow, steady. She watched the familiar faces, the corners she used to fear, the compound gate she used to enter like a prisoner. Olu sat beside her, calm as ever. "You're not going there as a victim," he said quietly. Amaka nodded, though her throat was tight. The car stopped in front of Ani Bimbo's compound. It wasn't just the Rolls-Royce. A subtle escort waited behind. Quiet vehicles, men standing with alert eyes. Not loud, not dramatic, but enough to make the whole street understand that something serious had arrived. The driver stepped out first and opened the door with professional respect. Olu stepped out, then offered Amaka his hand again, still not forcing, just steady. Amaka took it. The moment she stepped out, the street fell into a strange silence. The kind of silence that comes when people are shocked but don't want to miss the next scene. Somebody whispered, "Nah, Amaka be that? Wait, nah the charity case? Which cane transformation be this?" Amaka stood tall. Her dress was simple, but it fit her well. Her skin looked clean and cared for. Her face was calm. She didn't look like the girl that left with tears and shame. She looked like someone returning with her head up. The compound gate opened. Tolu came out first with her usual careless confidence, chewing gum, pressing her phone as if she owned the world. Then she saw the Rolls-Royce. She froze like someone who just remembered debt. Her eyes moved from the car to Olu's clean outfit, then to Amaka's face. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Behind her, Auntie Bimbo rushed out, already ready to shout, until her eyes landed on the cars and the men standing quietly. Her voice died in her throat. She stared at Amaka like she was seeing a ghost. "Amaka?" she whispered, and it wasn't love. It was fear. Olu stepped forward first, calm and controlled, his voice firm without being loud. "Good afternoon," he said. Auntie Bimbo swallowed hard. "Good afternoon, sir." The way she added "sir" was pure survival. More neighbors gathered. People climbed balconies. Children stopped playing. Phones rose higher. But this time nobody laughed. Olu looked around at the crowd. "Everybody should listen," he said. "This won't take long." The street went quiet enough that even Amaka could hear her own heartbeat. Olu pointed slightly toward Amaka, careful not to treat her like a display. This is Amaka. For years, you watched her get treated like she didn't matter. Some of you laughed. Some of you joined. Some of you stayed silent. A few people shifted uncomfortably. Olu's eyes returned to Auntie Bimbo. You claimed you were helping her, but you used her. Auntie Bimbo shook her head quickly. No, sir, no. I took her in. I fed her. I trained her. Olu lifted a hand. Stop. Auntie Bimbo's mouth snapped shut immediately. Olu continued. You forced her into a shame marriage because you wanted to control what belongs to her. Tolu's eyes widened. Which belongs? Olu ignored her and faced the street again. There are benefits tied to Amaka's late parents, documents and property matters. From today, nobody will touch it except Amaka. Auntie Bimbo's face turned pale. But I'm her guardian, she tried again, voice trembling. She was under my care. Anything she has. Olu's tone didn't change. You were not her guardian. You were her problem. A small gasp moved through the crowd like wind. Auntie Bimbo's knees almost gave way. She dropped into begging immediately, palms together. Please. Please, sir. I'm sorry. I was angry. Poverty is hard. I didn't mean to hurt her. Tolu jumped in fast, forcing laughter, pretending like everything was a misunderstanding. Amaka, not joke now. We were just playing with you. You know family. Amaka's chest tightened, but she didn't flare up. She stepped forward. The street held its breath. Olu turned slightly and gave her space to speak. Amaka looked at Auntie Bimbo and Tolu, not with rage, but with the calm of someone who had finally accepted the truth. Auntie, she said, voice steady, you didn't raise me with love. You raised me with insults. You made me believe I was lucky to suffer. You made me beg for small peace in a house I cleaned every day. Auntie Bimbo cried harder. Amaka, forgive me. I'm your auntie. I'm all you have. Amaka shook her head gently. No, you were all I had, but you didn't treat me like I mattered. And I'm done begging. She turned to Tolu. You called me Charity Case like it was my name. You mocked me when I cried. You watched them record me like entertainment. Tolu's smile faded completely. She tried to speak, but nothing came out. Amaka faced both of them again. I'm not fighting you. I'm not shouting. I'm just setting my boundary. She pointed to the compound gate, not aggressively, just clearly. I will not return here. I will not ask you for anything again. And whatever belongs to my parents, money, land, documents, you will not touch it. Silence swallowed the street. Even the people with phones looked ashamed now, because the truth had no room for laughter. Olu stepped forward again, voice firm. From today, any attempt to disturb Amaka will be handled properly. And any documents related to her parents will be processed with her present. Not yours. Auntie Bimbo's begging turned into shaking. Please, please. But this time, her pleas could not rewrite what she had done. Olu offered Amaka his hand again. Amaka took it without fear. They walked back to the Rolls-Royce together, not running, not hiding, just leaving. As the car pulled away, the street remained quiet, like Ajegunle itself was still trying to understand the lesson. Inside the car, Amaka finally exhaled. Her body felt light and empty at the same time, like a heavy chain had been cut off. The road opened toward the parts of Lagos she used to only hear about, Ikoyi, Victoria Island, cleaner streets, guarded estates, a life that looked like a different country. Amaka stared out the window and whispered, more to herself than anyone. So this is how freedom feels. Olu glanced at her. This is just the beginning. And the moral stood clear, plain, and hard to forget. People mock what they don't understand. And sometimes destiny wears dirty clothes first, just to reveal who truly has a heart. Wow, bestie, look at how life turned it around. The same Amaka they mocked, the same girl they called Charity Case, is the one walking out with her head high. Because wickedness can't win forever, and truth always finds a way to speak. If this story touched you, drop a yellow heart in the comments and tell me the biggest lesson you learned. Don't forget to subscribe to support Folktale Bestie, like, and share with someone who needs this reminder today. Because bestie, this is not the end. This is only the beginning of Amaka's new life.